BMW have gambled here from the pole position of the 52nd edition of the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, and they may well be on the wrong tyres. So Daniel Harper, is he about to depart right to head into pit road and get the tyres changed as quickly as possible? He's certainly going to lose all these places in the start group, number one, if he does that. But the performance he's going to gain, as he's done exactly that, to the right-hand side, allows the lead car, the pace car, to head into pit road first of all as well. And now at pace, he will disappear into pit road. And on his own, on the front row then, this bizarre situation of Kevin Estre leading the 52nd edition of the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring away first. And he's a BMW, though, in second place and might lead the race. The 99 car has been started superbly well. Can it break later than Negrello? Not quite. And remember, it's a lot of give and take into this first corner because it's the Yokohama S. You have to swing right and you have to swing left. The Porsches in the midfield, including the two Falcon cars, running the risk of some early contact. I think they all avoided it, as it's neck and neck for third position, and slotting ahead is the first of those Rover Racing BMWs. That looks to me to be a Mercedes, though, up to second.
It is
that
Bird.
Is the car, yes, Frankie Bird, who started the car that, remember, Maro Engel was in warm-up earlier on. Two BMWs pitted, in fact, before the start of the race. The other Rover car also came in at the end of the rolling lap, Peter Snowden.
Well, quite extraordinary. A great run by Bird. And Bird takes the lead. He's taken ahead of Kevin Estre all the way through.
It's Engel. It's Maro Engel in the 130 car that started, and Engel is no stopping the German driver from Munich. He's got ahead of Kevin Estre and into the lead of the race. Again, what tyres was Engel on? Did we spot that? Might well be the cut slick rather than the full wet tyre. Mercedes side by side, and that is Frankie Bird, I think, getting involved with Hubert Haupt, who's not that far behind either. For is David Pittard in the 34 Valkenhorst Aston Martin, running 7th, and he's actually the quickest through that third sector as the second start group now gets underway. And this is for Cup 2 Porsches, so Carrera Cup machines, essentially all one make at the sharp end, but then look further back and you've got the VW Golf of Max Cruiser Racing. The KTM Crossbow will be involved in this as well, although I can't see that in the first group of cars. 55 definitely should be involved in the second of the starting groups. Almost, there was a sideways moment there from 165, struggling to hang on to the Schmickler Performance powered by Ravenol SP10 car, as now it's side by side, and the Click for Cypheron car slightly better on the higher line to V8, and the Mercedes hauls him out of the corner. However, later on in the lap, Engel then struggling on the very damp stuff down at Arenberg, and a few moments ago, around the outside, went Kevin Estre to retake the race lead. Engel can't get it turned in at Schwedenkreuz. Estre says, "See you later, mate." This is why we chose this particular tyre, and Farfus has gone through into second. Riccardo Feller now up to third position for Scherer Sport, and Marco Mappelli in fourth place. So where on earth is Maro Engel now? He's 13th. He's 13th after a terrible fifth sector on the racetrack. From the lead out to the side of the top 10 in basically a few corners.
Nothing to do whatsoever with keeping his powder dry all week. Everything to do with being on that dry tyre on the Grand Prix track. You saw how much performance he had. However, it all just begins to crumble as they hit the rain out there on the Nordschleife.
Engel absolutely helpless in trying to turn the car in. Meanwhile, Marco Mappelli had a bit of contact there, I think, with Riccardo Feller. Oh, they're all trying to navigate. They're really struggling. Maro Engel car number 130. Feller in the end ended up ahead of the Lamborghini Huracan. The three different eggshell-coloured Hyundais that started on, well, the European car, as PMAC calls it, has started on wet weather tyres. These are all Elantras, and therefore the 830 we reckon is on wets. Is also on wets, and then there's a car with principally a Chinese driver lineup, and that has started with wets and now has moved to dries. The Aston Martin, again, presumably the one that had difficulties on the opening lap, is now really struggling heading up the hill towards the carousel and staying well over to the left. It's already been caught by what looks like start group 3, actually. It is the 34 Aston Martin. So this is the car that was started by up until
We've located him.
Sorry, Johnny, he's between Wipperman and Brunchen now, just dropping down the order according to the tracker, which can have glitches, so just in case, but add that caveat in. But if it's accurate, he's just dropping down the order.
Pick him off again then and repay the favour. But yes, there's the slight confusing moment there as a car rejoined the racetrack from pit road and into the path of Patrick Cole, but he coped with it well.
Well, I think what happened there was actually that Dan Harper, as you say, absolutely steamed down the pits down the right-hand side and got ahead of the Porsche. Would then had his braking point distracted slightly because of that car coming out of the pitch. You say he suddenly ran a bit wide. I thought he'd carried too much speed in, but he hadn't. I think it was you can't take a car out that's correctly over the pit lane exit line.
Ninth, I reckon. Ninth ahead of Picariello. But what about this for another lead change? It's happened again at the hairpin, and Estra got caught on the wrong side of the 633 Porsche, and Augusto Farfus, taking the tighter line through Goodyear Carer, is able to apply the throttle earlier through the more conventional racing line, but Estra was caught in two minds there as to which side of the 633 car, the Flantz-driven Porsche.
Position, Estra had a choice, left or right. He chose left, and the 633 stayed exactly where it was, but that was the high side. As you said, Farfus had reread it and went, thank you very much, I'll just go up the inside.
Contained within the damaged rear left wheel and the tyre that has gone down. Porsches were side by side a minute or two ago. Nico Menzel alongside the Patrick Cole-driven Lion speed car, and through nipped a recovering 98 BMW. Now, that also pitted at the end of the first lap, or not the first lap, the start of the first lap, with Dan Harper. And Lucas Stoltz is having a good fight with one of the Aston Martins as well. Car number 4 down in 14th position. And he's got Patrick Assenheimer, the number 35 Aston Martin, now behind him, able to pick him off coming out of the Yokohama S.
It was Marco Whitman in the 98, Johnny, again, scything his way like he's literally a hot knife through butter there, making his way through. Absolutely fired up. There'll be nothing worse for him than having to give away that grid position so hardly worked for yesterday evening, and then having to pit to get himself on the tyre that he's needed. And there's the lead about to change again, is it, Snowy?
He has a replay of Kevin Estra doing exactly the same back to Augustus Farfus.
It's again of David Pittard, I think. So that car back into the race, and also there was a squirm right in front of Dan Harper from the FAT Porsche.
Chain of supercars.
Dennis Olsen having to breathe in past one of these Siroccos. It's really busy now from that tow from the Porsche. Couldn't maintain the speed and therefore has not been able to get ahead of the number 5 car, I should say. But now on the braking into Yokohama S, the BMW looks slightly more stable. Dennis Olsen's taking a different approach to the Yokohama S though, and can get on the loud pedal a little earlier than that red, amber and white car. Incline of concrete. Instead, these days it turns right and delivers you into the apex at the carousel. Mapelli just cannot do anything with his Lamborghini, and to the high side, Dan Harper waves him goodbye as the current pilot of car 35, and he's round the outside, in fact, of the second of the Vulcan car. The first of them is off the road at Arenberg, and the 44 car then through the gravel trap. That's Nico Menzel. The other one that was side by side with Patrick Assenheimer has to therefore be Alessio Picariello, and they are far from on the ideal tyres either.
The number 121, it's the Michele Di Martino, the Kramer Racing UG & Co KG Porsche, who is being followed literally bumper to bumper by the Maxi Cruise Racing Porsche of Tom Coronel.
You've got to do it. You've got to suck it up, reset, and get on with it. And that's exactly what he's just done. And again, that favourite manoeuvre, he did it on Mapelli on the last lap, didn't he? On the right-hand, on the way up to Carousel. It's obviously one of his favourite little spots. That's 2 consecutive laps he's gained a place there.
Joe's always told me that's the karting line. As across the line, how close do you want it between the leaders? Porsche versus BMW, the Grello car up against it because Augusto Farfus got a killer exit out of Hohenrhein, hits the brakes slightly later than the Frenchman alongside and will be able to take the race lead at the Yokohama S. However, the better exit from the Porsche, and now that Porsche's back in front. This is epic stuff. Fuel stop, so it has to be 5 laps completed for Frank Bird. That will be down to where the timing loop is in pit lane, I'm sure, and in a moment it will trigger as at the end of his 5th lap. And also in pit lane there was a Porsche as well which has just departed right, Piana, So early stops, but Dan Harper has stayed out. The difficulty for him now is that although he's going at a similar speed to the race leaders, there's 40 seconds to try and find on those dueling Porsche versus BMW. So Estre and Farfus in a league of their own, and principally that's down to the choice of tyre.
Fred Reviche, isn't it, in the other one, in the other Shearer car?
Yes, not Stippler, but you're right, in the red door mirrored car. And Lucas Stoltz has been off the road and had an out of force. That was a couple of moments ago, but Lucas Stoltz was battling with Frank Stippler, who escapes into the distance. The slipstream coming out of Galgenkopf, and the reason for the code 60 that you were just mentioning could very easily be for BMW 240i number 680. This is part of the 240i Racing Cup class.
In the 24H series, we don't mean a full course code 60, segments of the track where issues are being rectified.
But spent certainly the last few years, far more months here of his life getting his name out there really, and became a Mercedes specialist, well, about 10 years ago. And as you say, was in that lineup that included Mauro Engel and Schneider and Metzger, and took victory the last time. Now, a few moments ago, an Aston Martin pirouetting, and the 176 amazingly was not hit by Alessio Picariello, but that was the run down towards Brightside, and the Dorint sponsored car thankfully got away with that, assuming that it kept it out of the barriers as well. Frank Stippler's right on the tail of the FAT Herbert car and almost overlapping. They were kissing wheel arches. Stippler to the inside, attempting an overtake into Klostertal. He's absolutely off his head, Frank Stippler.
I think they're all off their head racing around here in these cars.
Much more meaningful left-hander at Klostertal, charged his way up the inside of the number 5 FAT Porsche, had sliced his way into 4th position, and he should now be right with Daniel Harper in the 72 car. The BMWs, they come right in front of us, headlights ablaze for Frank Stippler, looking to the inside. Is he going to brake a little bit later? Of course he is. It's Frank Stippler, and he will take the position temporarily. It depends, though, how good the BMW is coming out of the Yokohama S. Slightly wider line for the Ulsterman on the way in, but he can't get the power down quite as early as the slightly shorter R8.
Yeah, Dan Harper took the right-hand line there like Kevin Estre did earlier, but unfortunately had a little snap understeer in the middle there for the BMW. It just cost him that time when he wanted to get on the power.
They all arrived into the first corner. There was a touch between Stoltz and Verviche as he was trying to find an inside line into the first corner on the racetrack, and Verviche had to jump out of the way.
Number 3 in second, Stippy in third in the 16 car. And that's what it is. Being backed up by one of the Cupras. And that's a BMW, but I think it was a GT4 BMW. An opportunity. Oh, huge incident. 1-2 cars just after fluke backed. It is one of the BMW M4 GT4s, I believe, and they've gone in exactly where we had the incident in the classic race this morning, but there's 2 cars involved. Now, this will not neutralise the race. We will not see safety cars if you're new to this, and hello particularly to all of our viewers in the US. If you've found your way to us with our new partner there, good to have your company. Be covered with double yellows. So, 1 car in the first instance, and then the Porsche coming along and not slowing down. That secondary impact is absolutely horrible into a car that had already lost its driver's door. That's why you have door bars, and it was one of the Caymans that came in, and I'm going to say this now, I think the driver of that Cayman may well be facing some kind of sanction. There were yellow flags and double yellows waving there, and he came in at far too great a speed. That's the dark red Porsche, the BMW, and I'm so pleased to see the driver out. The BMW, which already had its accident and it had ripped off the left front wheel, and the driver's door is lying on the ground. Whilst that was happening, meantime, Dan Harper in the number 72 BMW was right on the tail of the Phoenix number 16 PHX, sorry, the Sharer car, and using the traffic very nicely. Yes, it is.
Joe Motorsport Aston Martin.
And he's pulled off to the right-hand side. One of the GT4 cars.
It was already crabbing. He cannot drive in a straight line.
Yeah.
The front left seems to want to lead the car. The front right not doing such a good job.
Being brought into the team, and
That's
just break off from that.
Dynamic Porsche, isn't it?
That is the dynamic Porsche running on Pirelli tyres, and the 54 car's gone around.
Right. If you come in 10 minutes later, it's 331, so you can save yourself with one further lap.
Yes.
26 seconds. It's. I have to pull this out because you couldn't put a gun to my head and say, what happens if you come in with 42 minutes to go?
Bit of a slow outbound pit stop from the Ferrari, and Nico Menzel knows that he's off the speed limiter, and the apt Lamborghini also whizzing out there. And it's not always the case that people who are good in the virtual world can translate that into the real world. Yes, the virtual world is very, very realistic, but some people just don't get it. No. But I think Jimmy's gone about it, and is he in the car at the moment? Probably still is.
In the end, we made the right decision to come in for the drying wet because it was just too much rain.
And there is the 50. See, I've cursed that car just by talking about it. First curse of the commentator, hashtag blame Hindhoff, on the Grand Prix circuit. That is the leader in its class, the crossbow back. This is a GT2 crossbow, so the full fat car.
He did fantastic job.
In some ways, Sven Müller's just had a very close call with the barriers in the number 33, and Vincent Kolb as well in the Porsche. Oh, and he's had a spin, and I was about to say he hasn't hit anything, but he has. That's Antonius Bucher. That is top speed coming down there. So you're talking about 150, 160 miles an hour, and that has done a considerable amount of damage to that Porsche. And we've also, the car that I think he hit is the 130, which is the AMG celebrating 130 years of the competition. The States and concentrating on that. Incredibly, that Herbert Motorsport Fat Turbo car with Vincent Kolb behind the wheel is under its own steam, and a gesture of I have no clue what happened. Oh, hello. He's tried to... it's the Mercedes going through a gap that was narrowing. Fabian Schiller, and then clips the Porsche as he went by. Clipped two cars, actually. That's going into a gap that is closing on the steering. Dan Harper, you've had to welcome in a new member of the team, of the family almost.
He's been quick in GT World Challenge. It's not like he's not any experience in racing or in BMWs, in fact. Brand new to the Nordschleife this year, so let's say threw in the deep end. But he's done a fantastic job. We haven't had as much prep races as we normally would have, but he's fitted in brilliantly, and obviously it's a shame that Neil couldn't be here with us due to commitments in America. But yeah, it's great for him that he's also doing racing over there, and he's doing very well. So Charles has fitted in very nicely.
Another car off the circuit, and this is the 147 GT Tyre Motorsport by WS Racing 416 car, as we've now got the intervention vehicles out of that GT Tyres Motorsport number 147 machine. In the VT2 rear drive, Adrenaline Motorsport, another multiple team.
The Team Bilstein Mercedes with Maximilian Goetz, who's at the moment also under pressure from Nico Veroni in the number one Fricadelli Ferrari. Now, there was a moment there, it was on the replay, where I'm going to interrupt myself because there appears to be a car upside down.
Oh.
Adenauer forced.
Right.
Down, yeah. It has been. Yes, it has been, right. It's a VW Golf. That could be the new Club Sport.
I think that is the new Club Sport.
The Max Cruise Racing car, because that was running in the
yes, it is.
Safari-style camo livery.
Yeah, spot on, Bruce. So that's the 10 car, isn't it?
Yes.
And so that car has, I would say, been over. No, it's only a 7 DSG. It's one of the alternative cars.
Yeah.
Part of the...
Oh, I think we might get both. No, that's the Hyundai. And not the same corner.
No.
I spoke too soon.
You're learning quick, though, mate, in this game. Verone, of course, the Argentinian Italian. And he...
Well, that's the... what I'm going to dub the Pilot Challenge car.
Yeah, that's the Canadian car, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, part Canadian, part American, I suppose.
Yeah. the car that's mostly red. Take that. Now, Maxi Goetz has just had a little bit of an incident with the...
That's Verone again.
Nico Verone carving his way past.
He just got through.
It wasn't an incident. It was just Verone picking the right line and carving his way past as if he was in a... He's down through the years. And what a... Oh, Vincent Kolb having a big moment in the Herbert car, which did get a bit of a ding earlier on as he was heading down the hill.
Just doing its thing out on the Nordschleife, but that car is a Frankenstein's monster to an extent you would not believe.
Like earlier, Merrill McGann RS are... Oh, hello, somebody off at the side of the road with smoke coming out. And that, where's Max Hesse going through? That's just at the end of the foxhole. And to driver's left, that's not going to be in a small accident. Did we spot what type of car that was?
Well, on the current form, you could suggest it was probably an SP10 BMW. They seem to have had all the trouble in that class, but I'm not guessing at all.
No, Sheldon's in the pits. That's all right. Don't panic, John.
Had a moment there.
Yeah, had a moment. Meanwhile, back to the Dacia. RS McGann's are 10 a penny around here. But what has happened here? He was behind traffic, including the GT cars. He's been clipped by one of the Caymans, and that Cayman's gone off as well. Yeah, 2 cars involved, 3 cars involved. So all 3 of those cars, there was something VAG involved in that as well, I think. Pick some numbers out for you here.
But it's Schwalbenschwanz, right? The car with the Cayman on the... Oh, it's not a Cayman on the left.
It's now TT.
No, that's it's a 420 Porsche.
Yeah.
Is it? Right, OK. And there's another car to the left, which we didn't see. And that's a very badly damaged. So the Cayman is the further one. It's one of the GT tyres.
Back facing in the opposite direction, and still as we try and close in on the third car in...
That was the car that I saw the smoke from the engine. No, it's a GT tyres car.
That looks like a hatchback to me, so that would make it a 1 Series, wouldn't it? And I feel like I'm about to be heartbroken because we are seeing the Dace being pushed into its garage.
Quelle horreur!
Oh no!
We get through this. What we are trying to do, John, is actually get those class leaders up.
Well, I'll tell you who's leading the race, because on the pit stop cycle, it is now 22 laps into the race for Thomas Pridey.
Because I was just aquaplaning everywhere, and so eventually a few of them got past through Foxhole and now Forest, and actually there was contact there with one of the cars, and both of us had a bit of a half spin at different stages of the race, and that meant that our race was over. And it's just one of those that when the Lambo tagged the BMW and it broke the suspension, and of course that car came veering across the track as I was approaching it over 100 kilometres quicker, and narrowly missed that.
There's nothing you can do about that. That when that element of luck comes into it.
The thing is, things change.
Things do change.
They do, and they're changing for the 505 car. No team name on this one. This is one of the group of friends cars, if you like. No official team name. Fritz Hebig's BMW 328i is ground to a halt on the Grand Prix circuit somewhere. We also had an issue for the 486 Hyundai.
A track of compromise. However, this guy next to me absolutely 10/10th every braking area, and Adam, I've got to say, when I was sat there, on Discord talking to you while you're in the car, I just thought, yeah, that's why he gets paid to be a Mercedes Works driver. There's another one.
Problem for a 981
At the Bell offices.
Bell offices. Your recall is fantastic, Adam. It's a good job you know
the Flans Garden too.
Yeah.
A couple of people I just want to say hello to. Hello to Andrew Russell,
New Racing
who's big fan of this of our coverage. He's on holiday in Alicante. Darren Wood says hi. Another one of our buds. But Peter Fig asks an interesting question. As we've got a car off in the gravel, his question is: the reliability of the current GT3 cars, does that lend itself to drivers like yourself having to make the desperate moves because of that lack of attrition, let's say? Everything's down to the 10th.
I bet you're all going to miss that.
Oh,
one.
it's starting to rain.
Oh, yes, very well spotted, Adam Christodoulou. As they're coming up the Kesselchen, Charles Verts for number 72 BMW. The rain is starting to come down. As Adam Christodoulou looking at his phone. Perhaps this has been a good time to let you go, Adam, because this
I gotta go. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Thank you
Adam.
so much.
And us at home, and us in the commentary box, Dave. Absolutely. And there's a lot more. Thanks for having Adam Christodoulou on the broadcast. Always good value and such an eloquent interview. That's Chris Suku.
Fuega getting just caught up in traffic as our race leader Dennis Marshall and the number 16 Scherersport Audi got through as they headed down towards Brunchen.
Maybe not to ask you why to hear. You mentioned to me a good couple of months back about a little project you've got this year. It's called Back to Back.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so, I was backing, I suppose, myself, and to go back to back in terms of results. Car so much more, again, I suppose more static and more benign and more stable. The car was it was quite pitch sensitive forward and backwards, and as a result, there was just so much window for the car to not be exactly right from a driving point of view. Best in the business in terms of engineering departments behind them, which is ProDrive, and they need no introduction to any motorsport enthusiast. Their engineering capability stretches back 40 years, rallying from obviously Dave Richards' specialty.
The number 11 Mercedes, the Schnitzler Mercedes in and onto the wet tyre, and also the number 11. That's the car that's gone on to number 4, I should say, Technica International. 51st place sees the AT3 leader. That's the number 50, Max Cruz racing car. And then in 55th, the AT2 leader, the 320, the Ford Motors entry. 59th, we've got SP7's class leader. That's the number 80 Plus Line Racing team entry. 64th is the V6 entry. I'm going to butt in and come back to this class rundown, as I think we've got a bit of a rain shower, Peter, affecting track conditions, it looks like.
The number 44 Falcon Porsche going off the road at turn 1. Tim Heinemann on board, still running on slick tyres. The Fricadelli Ferrari number 1 with now Nico Veroni manages to pull it up just in time to turn around on the hard standing and get back going again. Tim Heinemann is coming down into the braking zone for turn 1, and there's just no grip there. Car goes straight on, almost like if you hit ice on the road, into the gravel trap. Managed to keep it going and not get stuck there, did Tim Heinemann in that number 44 Porsche. There's another Porsche Cayman GT4 in there as well.
Have all the information.
So the driver makes the call to the engineer, and then because of the prevailing conditions, and then it's down to the engineer to work out those projections.
And I thought they would have been melted because it was there was a dry line the whole way around, but I think they're quite a hard compound, and they stood up and they did, I think, 5 or 6 laps.
They are risking it. They are staying on the dry tyres. They are not expecting, or they are hoping, I think expecting is not the right word, they're hoping that we don't have any more rain. Car back as there's a spin for the number 119 Porsche Cup machine racing in the Cup 2 category. That's last year's winner, the Click, I can't even pronounce that, Click Verechungs team. You speak German, David. How do I pronounce that?
Oh, God, here we go. You put me on the Click Versicherung team.
There you go.
In these dry conditions, huge temperatures probably being generated, but still able to,
Well, you go slower.
That was there we go. So
did he contact?
No, he almost did, but there was a yellow flag zone of which I think he must have braked at the last minute. Gone insane. Come between 9 and midnight. So we will. Close racing between Heinemann and, we know, Felipe Fernandez-Laza, and they're both on slicks, weren't they?
Yep.
Being told by Jochen out at the Sabine Curve, proper rain is how he's describing it.
Proper.
He's a photographer and he's outside a lot, so if he says it's proper rain, it's got to be proper rain.
25.3 kilometre track. That's pretty much down to the driver's responsibility of calling the right tyre. It's not like the rain is going to come like we saw at Le Mans in 2008, where you had Howden Haynes on the pit wall telling Tom Christensen, you know, what tyres were going on the car, because he could see the prediction in the weather forecast. At some of the parts of the Nordschleife, you know, perfectly dry. But it's these slippery bits where you're going to fall foul, and that's what we're seeing.
Sector 6, which is basically the Kesselchen, on the drag all the way up the hill towards the Carachuri Carousel. Julian Andler has a spin on the Grand Prix stretch.
And he's a superstar.
Julian Andler is the superstar of superstars. So this could be where Vantor loses a lot more to that third place car.
Well, he's going to be thankful of that slow zone through Flansgarten towards, all the way towards and up the hill at Schwalbenschwanz. That waiting game on those slick tyres, waiting for the track to come back to you. The other gamble, as well as putting it off, is, of course, how much time you're going to lose without any grip, and whether you can then start regaining it and clawing it back. But that, Peter, is completely and utterly dependent on when the weather changes. And at the moment, it's not looking too likely, is it?
I think the cut slick was the call. It's a great halfway house.
Because for me, this is racing. This is all part of racing. It becomes even more of a team sport, where you've got decisions being made on the pit wall. You've then got the crew making those pit stops work and choreographed to perfection.
4 on Twitter, or X as it's now known as, and you can get in touch with us here as Tim Heinemann, 44 Falcon Porsche, off onto the grass halfway around the Grand Prix Strecke, and it was game over. Sheldon van der Linde has kindly shared his thoughts with our team down in the pits. He says, I'm fine for now, but my head hurts today. We had a really good car and we're leading the whole time. I was extremely cautious in traffic the whole time, precisely so that something like this didn't happen.
What it's saying at the moment, though, is we're going to have a very long dry run to the flag. There was look, we're in the Eifel region of Germany at the Nürburgring, so you know, by tomorrow morning that projection might have changed. So, however, this weekend, this next, what have we got, 18 hours 40 minutes, is going to be being in the right set of circumstances at the right time, and the only way you're going to claw that time back on a particular competitor is if those circumstances prevail in the same way as they did to lose you the time.
Can actually make a difference capturing that. If you expect it, you dial the shot later in the jump. Whereas in 95% of the jumps, you want to get it fairly up. Big problems because, what I judge the track by for wetness is, at some points you get standing water, like we did at Ketzelchen a few weeks ago, and at one point Brunchen starts to fill up, and at one point Brunchen, the track starts to be crossed by these mud streams, you know.
Entry in 75th place. 76th is the VT2 front, and that's the number 495 Otto Thomas by Young Motorsport. Car 711, that's leading V4 in 80th. Just behind them in 81st, the V5 leader is the 444 numbered Adrenaline Motorsport entry.
I'm in search of the annual from last year with the Ferrari on the front, and nobody could sell me a copy. They've all sold out everywhere. Group 3, slightly easier, as a Renault Megane has briefly left the road, but can rejoin on the Grand Prix Strecke. That's the 488 blue, white and red car. They're also battling their fellow class members.
Absolutely.
You're hoping they've seen you, and it's even better if your car's in a bright colour.
He properly turned in, and there was no space, and as the dynamic Porsche left my view around the corner, he was properly spinning.
But after that, where there are no spectators alongside the track, I think it's pretty nearly properly dark out there. It's drying though. It's not. We had that flurry of rain not so long ago, but it is generally drying out.
And Bruce, I think Lawrence Vantor probably had a proper flashback there.
There was a single waved yellow, there was a double waved yellow, then there's a slow Audi. Now, is that a car the whole reason the flags are out is because the Audi is stuck there. It might well have been recovering from a spin, in which case you are allowed to overtake that car.
And he definitely did give it back.
And he gave it back. Now we've got massive drama for Christophe Dupre in the Audi S2, which is part of the VT2 rear-wheel drive part of the race. This is at Brunchen on the exit where there's a massive crowd traditionally watching this, and barbecue's the other side of the fence, the right type of barbecue, but we never like seeing this. Thankfully, it is not on the driver's side, but the whole of the right-hand side of this Audi is alight. And Christophe does not want to go anywhere close to that.
He certainly doesn't. That car is gone far bigger than the barbecues the other side. There was a fuel leak. You'd see that burning away. So a fuel line, I would suggest, has fractured. The car is ignited, and that Audi, unless they can get the marshals anywhere near it, he's got the bonnet up to try and well, that might only fan the flames, unfortunately. That may bring it. So for Christophe Dupre, absolute despair. No marshals can get to his side of the track. I don't suggest it's a good idea to run across the track just there. As I said, it's properly dark out around the circuit. He's desperate to get some marshals there, but that Audi, with every second, unfortunately, car number 510 getting cooked more and more. That's in the VT2 class, but he is desperate to get someone there. It's burning mainly at the rear at the moment, so it's still the leaked fuel that's burning rather than up the front end under the bonnet.
Not that it probably matters now, but he was also leading VT2 for the rear-wheel drive cars. He's trying to fan the flames. I'm not sure that's going to work somehow.
The closest marshals to that point are the one on the outside of ice curve. The problem is, running back from ice curve to that spot, there's a really, really steep drop behind the Armco, so you can't run behind the Armco.
Okay, a rescue vehicle, a course vehicle has come along. There will be fire extinguishers taken out of the boot of that, but in fact, in some ways, the worst of the flame has dropped away, so all that spilt fuel that we saw burning in a line across the grass as he pulled to the right-hand side of the circuit, it's under control. In fact, it's a sort of fixed extinguisher there, and the marshal just getting it straight, and now we'll get onto the fire, but I'm afraid it's over and out for the 510 Audi. So you go off now and have 6 hours sleep, leaving your cameramen out around the circuit, or?
I hadn't thought of it like that, Bruce, but no. I'll also go and shoot a Ferris wheel at the Grand Prix track, I think. Then I go back to the office, drop off some memory cards.
From Frozen Speed, we're really appreciating your contributions as well on our little WhatsApp chat, updating us with parts of the circuit we can't see. Christopher Groth is the only SP3 runner in the order, so we can probably put a black marker pen through the whole of SP3 now, because it's highly unlikely that Audi will be moving again.
Position. Danny Juncadere, though, has been one of the stars at this point in the race. He got up to third, fourth position, had his pit stopped, he worked his way back round, and a couple of cars colliding, sitting in the middle of the track, and Danny Juncadere had to take to the grass in avoidance. They were side by side, he went around. So the drivers at this point, with full darkness, Johnny, having to be really on their tiptoes. Incidents seem to be coming thick and fast. One of the cars that Martin Ragginger just flashed past ended up didn't have all its lights on at the rear, just to make things a little harder. Ayhan Şengüven, a fantastic driver, but no one around here has more experience than Frank Stippler. He's gauging how wet it is, but then as I say that, suddenly Ayhan Şengüven comes up to the tail, moves alongside, and looks as though he's got the move done. Frank Stippler looks across from his cockpit. Has he let him through? Windscreen wipers are sweeping away. The Porsche surely has just got its nose in front, but maybe Frank's just too wide. No, underbraking, the Audi comes back through. So it was just gauging. Frank Stippler looking to his right. How much grip have we got on this circuit? Not a great deal. These cars are tiptoeing around. Nothing between them. Getting towards the end of the lap. Might as well push him through the final couple of corners, but really job very, very well done by the Turkish driver Ayhan Şengüven, and they're about to put lap 39 to bed.
And Stippler pits. Stippler is into the pit lane. Now, I didn't expect him to be stopping that early on, because he hasn't done 8 laps. He's only done 4 laps on the stint. So this is a very strange moment. Was he struggling on that set of tyres so much that he says, I've got to switch them? Or has there been a slow puncture? Jules Gounon in the 130 car has just come in. This car, sadly, still running in the SP9 class, of course, but it's just come into pit lane from 103rd position, having been in the wars a great deal.
He said fog will be coming, and maybe it was the visibility, maybe not, but the number 148 Porsche's doing the reversing test. I would suggest that's the gravel at the opening corner. He is very deep indeed, but his foot is planted and his rear wheels are back on terra firma, so that was a very good job. And you could hear the applause from the fans at the grandstand. That was mighty.
Slower cars to remind him of where the track goes next. It's actually the approach to that's Flatsgarten, where he had to get off the throttle there and turn right. Miney, Harper, and behind Harper there it is this number 16 Audi that bridges the gap briefly. This was Schwedenkreuz, and then the run into Arenberg, and around the outside to take the lead of the 52nd edition of the Nürburgring 24 Hours goes Chris Meese, superb, and leaves Miney and Harper in his wake, and they are completely helpless.
When any of you happen to see Christian Meese again, give him a pat on the back and a drink of his choice, because nobody clearly told him it was dark out there. Around the outside against another arrival. Admittedly, there was a slower car up in front, and I think Arjun Maini, just as they went into that right-hander, thought, oh, let's just be a little bit careful, but he was not thinking he'd be attacked and passed around the first Christian Meese around the outside at Schwedenkreuz, and then, obviously, not saying die at all, not backing off. Dan Harper just pulling alongside and going past. That was just astonishing. But the fact he then took the next corner with his right-hand wheels on the grass just shows how right out the edge he is. But that BMW M-Team RMG entry, car number 72 with a Shell livery, has just been in tip-top form in every single session.
Sound and vision, and why on earth are you not? You may be taking us for company if you're on a drive somewhere. It depends where you are around the world, I suppose. But I really hope that it's the dead of night where you are, just as it is, not quite the dead of night, but we're 6 minutes to 11 now, and Chris Meese Guven about 3/4 of a minute back as we're going by all sorts of intervention vehicles now, including three flatbeds, absolutely flying by them in one gulp.
And you shall be punished.
But the problem is the pit lane entry in that situation is almost constantly changing, and it's in a different place the next time you come around the lap. 800 is a TCR car in the gravel trap. It's a VW Golf, to be precise. 36 laps completed for this car. Dottinger her, Chris Meese is closer to Daniel Harper this time around, so he will be able to create the draft or get on the tail of it. It's a big hole that's being punched in the air by the BMW as well, but which side of the road is he going to go? Harper's decided the left. That is the ideal route into Antonius Bucher, so Christopher Meese is going to have to do it the hard way around the outside. He might have even cleared the BMW by now, in fact, because I don't think Harper's going to break in time. No, he's not. So we have a lead change just before they get to Tiergarten, some back, where amazingly it will become easier then. Normally it's the reverse, but as Martin Ragginger turns left through Sabine Schmidt's curve, it does start to clear a touch.
2 laps later, or more to the point, he took over 2 laps later. And yes, gosh, it's so difficult even to pick out the end of the entrance to the pit lane as they burst through the fog.
We're hearing that there has been a red flag all the way around the racetrack, and that has to be related to the visibility. It comes out then, write this down, Bruce, at 23.23 on the nosy, and I did wonder whether we might not be too far away from that.
That's for the 911 GT3 Cup cars. So Gabriele, car number 103 for Team Black Falcon, leading that class.
The 48th lap, but we've actually wound things back a couple, so we will restart at the end of lap 45. Therefore, the first of the 5 formation laps will be 46, and it'll get to the first of it will get to the 50 laps completed, and then a decision will be made. Do we continue or do we stop?
When they were waiting to know, this track is going to be very, very greasy, but I tell you what, this is one of the highest points of the circuit, the start-finish straight.
Lined up next to us.
Having already put his sprint version of that car on pole position in Carrera Cup Italia.
Was there a wet patch there? But it's hard to see, obviously, at night time with the cameras and everything.
There is the 130 car being pushed into the pit lane, celebrating 130 years of Mercedes in motorsport.
The 16 car comes across the line. They're at now Tiergarten and Hohenrhein, and will up the pace with rain in the air now as well, and this steady fog. But the checkered flag for the 7th time in the history of this race will go to Audi and to Scherer Sport PHX, following the 6 wins previously for Phoenix Racing. We now have a tie at the top of the shot for the most wins between Manthey and Phoenix Racing. A very smart cut glass trophy, and their engineer gets that to hold above his head, and the celebrations can now begin. Fair play to the Grello quartet. They are applauding, very, very happy with that victory. I think actually the 4 drivers are still digesting precisely what's happened. The champagne may help with that, though.
It may help lubricate the moment, but long faces on the second step of the podium, delighted faces on the top step, and the young guns, the BMW runners on the right-hand side in 3rd position. Their time will come. Great race, just alas we didn't get as much of it as we wanted, but we'll always remember the days with the fog, the night with the fog, and the cars trying to work out what was happening, the teams trying to work out what was happening. But Scherer Sport, PHX and Audi, they come away with outright victory in the 52nd running.